Hello guys, now it's time for 1-3. We get to talk about multiplying and dividing real numbers, which you probably already figured out since we did adding and subtracting yesterday. Only one vocab word today, and that is I can never say this word right, multiplicative inverses. And that is a number and its reciprocal. Now you'll see the word reciprocal quite a bit. And if you'll remember from when you learned how to multiply and divide fractions, you talked about reciprocals. Okay, and a reciprocal, all it is, let's say I have the number 3. Okay, now hopefully you'll agree with me that that is actually 3 over 1. So all a reciprocal is when you flip it over. So the reciprocal of 3 would be 1/3. Okay? And when you have inverses in multiplication, when you multiply them together, you get an answer of 1. So for example, again, if I had, let's say I had the fraction 2/9. Okay? Its reciprocal would be 9 over 2. And again, if I multiply those together, you get 18 over 18. Which again is 1. So multiplicative inverses are just a number flipped over essentially, and when you multiply two inverses together, you'll always get an answer of 1. So again, we're going to have some rules for how to multiply and divide numbers, just like we had rules with adding and subtracting. Now, it does get a little confusing here because you have to remember that your adding and subtracting rules are different than your multiplying and dividing rules. Okay, so if you can create two different boxes in your mind, one for your adding and subtracting rules that we worked on yesterday, one for your multiplying and dividing rules, okay, because they're different, so try to keep them separate. So here's the first rule: if you are multiplying and dividing numbers that have the same sign, okay, either they're both positive or they're both negative, okay, they have the same sign, then that answer will always be positive. Same sign, positive, okay, for multiplying and dividing. Now if you have different signs, your answer will always be negative. Okay, so if you have one positive number, one negative number, your answer is negative. Okay, it's not like adding and subtracting where you keep the sign of the bigger number. Okay, they're different, it's negative. Same as positive. Same positive, different negative. Okay, those are your multiplying and dividing rules. So let's work through some examples together here. Here's our first example. We have 35 divided by -5. So all we're going to do is we're just going to do this like we normally would, and we will decide the sign of our answer later. So 35 divided by -5. Hopefully you know that 35 divided by 5 is 7. Then all we got to ask, do we have same or different signs? As you can see, we have different signs, so my answer has to be negative. So 35 divided by -5 is -7. Okay, here we have -11 times -4. You can see here we have the same sign, so we already know that our answer is going to be positive. So all we have to do is do 11 times 4, which is 44, and since it's same sign, it's going to be positive. You also see some like this where they give you the expression and then they tell you the value of x. You saw some of these on your homework yesterday as well. So -6x for x equals 7. So all they want you to do there is plug in 7 where the x is. And remember, this is multiplication because there was no operation written here. So we have -6 times 7. So we have different signs, so we know our answer is going to be negative, and 6 times 7 is 42. So -6 times 7 is -42. Now, we do get a little more complicated here when we start talking about fractions. Now, I know you worked with fractions last year, and you'll be working with them again this year. the hardest thing to do with fractions is typically to divide. When you divide by a fraction, it's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. Okay? And reciprocal, as we just talked about, is where you flip the fraction over. So on this first problem here, we have -1/2 divided by -5/6. So I'm going to rewrite that as a multiplication problem. So I have -1/2 times, and now I have to use the reciprocal. Okay? So I'm going to put the 6 on the top and the 5 on the bottom. So I changed it to times, and I flipped it. An easy phrase to remember this: keep it, change it, flip it. Keep it, change it, flip it. Okay, so we kept the first fraction, we changed the sign in the middle, and we flipped the second fraction. Now if you'll remember, when you're multiplying fractions, you simply multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. These are same signs, so our answer is going to be positive. 1 times 6 is 6. 2 times 5 is 10. And now of course we can reduce this. 6/10 becomes 3/5. So my final answer would be 3/5. Let's do another one here. Now this one, as you can see, has a mixed number. So when we have a mixed number, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. And remember, to do that, you take the whole number multiplied by your denominator, so 2 times 3 plus 2. So this is actually 8/3. So let's rewrite it now as a multiplication problem. 8/9 times, and now I've got to flip this one over, so it's 3/8. So I have 8/9 times -3/8. Now these have different signs, so I know right away my answer is going to be negative. 8 times 3 is 24. 9 times 8 is 72. Now, you'll probably remember from last year that we have this thing called cross-reducing. So here, I know I'm going to have to simplify that, but I could actually simplify before by reducing the 8s to 1s. Hopefully you remember this from last year. If you don't, ask me about it tomorrow in class. And then 3 and 9, I could take a 3 out of both of those. So then, instead of getting this big number that I have to reduce, I'll get 1 over 3. Okay. So my answer would be -1/3. I believe I have one more down here for you. Now I gave you this one because you'll notice here that my second number is not in fraction form. I just wanted to show you that to remind you that if I have a whole number, I can always put it over 1. So now when I do this problem, keep it, change it, flip it. Okay, so the reciprocal of 9 is 1/9. Now again, these are same signs, so I know I got a positive answer. I can cross-reduce, taking a 3 out here. So I end up with 1 times 1, which is 1, 4 times 3, which is 12, 1/12 is my answer. Now another thing that we need to talk about real quickly here is properties of 0. Now we will be multiplying and dividing by 0. And so it's important that you know what happens when we do that. This one I'm pretty sure you already know. When we multiply by 0, we get 0. Always. So whenever you multiply by 0, the answer is 0. Now with division, it's important to remember whether you're dividing by 0 or whether you're dividing 0 by a number. There's a difference. So here we have 0 divided by a number. So when we have 0 on top, okay, I like to think of this in fraction form. If 0 is on top, okay, the answer is 0. Now, if 0 is on the bottom, meaning you're dividing by 0, okay, if you think of it in fraction form, 12 over 0. You can't divide by 0. It's actually impossible, because division asks how many times does 0 go into 12. Okay, well, you could add 0 to 0 as many times as you wanted and you would never get to 12. So you can't divide by 0. So when we have division by 0, we say it's undefined. Okay, so when 0 is on the bottom, it's undefined. When it's on the top, it's 0. Okay? So that's all I have to talk to you about today. Again, when we are multiplying and dividing, if we have the same sign, our answer is going to be positive. If we have different signs, our answer is going to be negative. When we're doing fractions, we're dividing fractions, you want to multiply by the reciprocal, keep it, change it, flip it. And then here on this screen, once again, is our rules of 0. So make sure you take some time to look over these and remember them. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.